Yeah, I mean, you took over, and then not too long after we had COVID, and you're navigating uncharted waters.
Uncharted waters. And I said, God, why me? And he said, why not you? We actually did some very creative programming during the time of we shut down. There was opportunities where we could write grants because now the world was like, people are at home and various foundations were raising monies to say, wait a minute, we got to help our communities. One of the things we did was that we have school buses that we were paying insurance on still. I think it was the state of Ohio. They had a school bus and they had the bus going out to various communities as a reading bus. Parents and the children couldn't get their homework done. And then we said that there's a part of Bridgeport.
Right, because a lot of kids didn't have internet at home, right?
They had no internet.
Yeah.
And then my light bulbs went on and I said, well, wait a minute. I wonder if we could convert our school buses into mobile hotspots. So I had 2 staff members working from home, getting paid to actually call up, like AT&T and Verizon. And then we went through the pricing and we selected one. And then we contacted the Board of Ed and the Lighthouse program that we service. And so we said, this is what the Shehan Center is going to do. We're going to convert our park school bus into mobile hotspot. If you have a car, you could pull up to a bus. Please let us know where we could put those, the buses. Let us know about the high need areas.
Welcome to Mission Control. At Peralta Design, we launch brands. But for now, let's launch right into this episode.
3, 2, 1, 0, and liftoff.
Welcome to this episode of Mission Control. This is your host, Ramon Peralta with Peralta Design, and we launch brands. So we have a special episode today. I think I say that every time.
They're all special episodes.
This one's extra special because we have the one and only Miss Lorraine Gibbons in the house.
Local legend.
Local, yes. She is the executive director at the Cardinal Shehan Center and the McGivney Community Center. She's got 2 jobs, just like a true Jamaican.
Changing to double the lives.
So we're excited to have you here. We can't wait to get into your story. Thanks for wearing the PD colors too.
You're welcome.
That just set it off.
Here. Happy to be rocking the red and black.
Yes, amen. So Jorge, let's dive into our new format here. And by the way, I need to introduce you because I almost missed it. We have the one and only Jorge with us.
Lean, mean, and full of caffeine.
He keeps changing it on us, Kev. And Kevin on the soundboard.
Good evening.
Okay, so make sure you listen to this after 5 p.m.
A lot of people, they're never going to know when we record this. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening.
So,
That's a Truman Show?
It's
right?
a Truman Show thing, yeah, Groundhog Day. So let's dive into our education segment. We've got the battle of the apps here, right? The graphic applications.
Yes, we'll call them platforms, and that they've evolved so much. And if you are a business of any size, whether you're a Fortune 500 company, and we've worked with plenty of them, all the way down to the local pizza place, also which we've worked with plenty of, you're going to need graphics. You're going to need flyers. People are going to need to know your messaging. So you're going to need to have those items created, whether you're making graphics for your social feed, or even if you're editing a video, as it turns out. So the 2 kind of kings of the space right now, and I know that our video editor, who's also using DaVinci Resolve, would be like, "Oh, what do you mean?" But the 2
common,
the most common, we'll say, is Adobe and all of their suite of platforms, and one of the newer players on the block, which is Canva. And it's interesting being a design agency coming to this middle of the road where both of these things exist and interacting with a lot of businesses that need graphics. And we use both tools based on what the need is. But it's also fair that you should just know that both of them exist. And Canva is a great place to start. I feel like we see a lot of this discourse online where there's a lot of designers that kind of look down on the platform. And for me, it's really just leveling the playing field. I think there are a lot of people who maybe like myself or Ramon who remember, picas and pixels and points and being able to go through and, working with the T-square and learning all of your design elements from scratch, and then getting into the Quark Expresses of the world, and then getting into all of this evolution of software that's come along the way. Kevin uses Adobe CS2 like a champion to this day.
That's right. Still works.
I remember PageMaker.
PageMaker,
and
publisher.
WordPerfect.
Right, WordPerfect. So the world of graphics
It's like
has
Windows 3.1 for me.
the world of design and software has had this long journey.
Well, I remember we used to kind of hate on Canva because it was very limiting and, was kind of like the designer, I don't want to say felt threatened by it, but it had some analogies to.
Absolutely say that.
I think it was kind of like, well, you don't need me because you have Canva, or I can tell that was done in Canva.
Right.
Similarly to how we some folks are threatened by AI. It's like it's a tool, and Canva is a tool.
Which basically every image that I look at online now, I look and see, was this AI?
I'm tired. By the way, I'm tired of this trope now with it's an African boy that has created something like a carving, and it's super intricate, and it's completely AI.
Right, you can tell.
And like 99% of the people commenting on it, they think it's real.
Right.
And it's some of the most absurd creations. Like he's carved this really detailed man out of a piece of wood, or made an airplane out of water bottles, or something like that. And it's like, I'm sure there's very talented young boys out there creating things, but this is like AI just going out of left field.
It's all over the place. So, but I mean, to that same note, not to get too far off track,
right.
It's a tool, just like Canva is a tool, just like Photoshop is a tool, and you'd use them for different things, right? You know what I mean? You're gonna go ahead, and if you're doing work in your home, you're gonna get the tape measure out. But if you're doing a geological survey, you're gonna have to get something a little bit more precise than just a regular old tape
and whatever
measure.
You can automate to be efficient.
Exactly.
Makes sense. And I think that's for business owners, we're big on empowering them. I think you can utilize
it's democratized it, so that way it's
accessible.
People, I think that's what happened, is that designers and some business owners wanted to feel like there was this walled garden, an exclusive club that, well, if you don't know how to do that, you can't really touch it. Now, granted, even with those tools, you still have to do the work and know what looks good, because just because power tools exist, right? Oh, the table saw exists. Everyone's going to be able to build their own house.
You can still be a terrible carpenter.
Exactly. So just because you have the tool doesn't mean you're going to be great at it. And just because you can say, all right, well, I can look at that house across the street and try to build that. Guess what? Without the proper training, without really knowing what's going on, you're only going to be able to do so much. And that's where the professionals come in. But it does help to know that these platforms exist out there. So for pricing wise, Photoshop as its full scale of apps and suites isn't super cheap. It does get pretty expensive once you start getting into, hey, I need Photoshop, and I need Illustrator, and I need InDesign, and I need Animate, and I need XD. And the solutions go on and on and on and on. But you might not need that. As a small business owner, you might only need Photoshop.
And
that's it.
And if that, because you might not ever find yourself retouching photos or trying to merge photos.
Right. If you're not doing any kind of color grading and
Right.
doing any kind of photos like that, you might not. It might be overkill. You might just need the lower level of Photoshop, which is Lightroom. Or now it's interesting. Now that Canva came out, Adobe Express was released, and they're kind of stealing. They basically stole their same interface.
They see there's a market for it.
Exactly. They say we want to make design tools accessible to everyone. Right. And Canva's come out with a bunch of templates and a bunch of tools, things like the background remover. I can remember literally taking hours, right?
Yeah, you have to use a magic wand. You
have to use the magic wand tool, or use the pen tool first to make the shape, and then you'd be there for hours trying to design it. And now you click it, you tell the AI to remove the background, and it's done in 8 seconds. And you're like, wow, that would have taken me all afternoon.
That was somebody's job, just silhouetting objects.
Just removing things. So imagine you're doing like the spring catalog for Sears or Macy's, and you're removing backgrounds, and how long that would have taken. That was a whole job just in and of itself. And now you can do it in moments. So, but now that time can be freed up for better things, right? And Canva is free out of the gate, and then they'll have has a freemium model, so you can get the pro version that has additional features too. So just important to know that it's out there. And even for video editing, that's a thing where you can upload and edit videos right in the platform. A lot of people don't know you can print directly from it. So much like the Vista prints of the world, you can get your documents printed directly from them. So
very cool.
It's important to know that you have options. You're going to need graphics no matter what you do, and you have different pricing options available to you and whatever your skill set is.
Excellent. I do want to take advantage since we have a Jamaican American here in the room. What did you think of One Love, the Bob Marley movie?
I loved it.
Did you?
I saw it twice.
Really?
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
I learned a lot from it. I thought I knew him, but I didn't know his dad was, like a colonizer or Dutch. I think he was Dutch or something in the movie, but he kept having these visions of his dad, and it makes sense because he was light-skinned, that he was biracial. And then the other part was the melanoma, on his toe. Like that like, a lot of us know, or some of us know that he passed from cancer, but like it had started in his toe and he could have had it cut off. But I think it was for being a Rasta, they don't believe in like cutting body parts off. And he was like, not into that. Or something like that.
I know. Very stubborn, right?
Very stubborn, kind of determined, and focused. We were talking about focusing earlier, but he was very focused on his music. I think one of the things in the movie, any time that he had, he was like writing music or on his guitar, right?
On his guitar. And what was really fascinating to me is that I had no idea, and I knew a little bit, but not to this extent as the movie portrayed it, that very biblical.
Yes.
Right? So a lot of his songs he got from the Bible.
Yes.
And it showed that in the movie. But you know what? He has a legacy.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
And now his children are out, just doing amazing things.
And he had quite a few.
Yes, he did. That he did. That he did.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, I enjoyed it. And that young man, Kingsley Benadir, he's been playing a lot of these iconic men.
They could cast him in the biopic.
Yeah. He was, of course, we loved him, and in the Skrull as the King Skrull in the Marvel series, opposite Nick Fury or Sam Jackson. But he played, I think he played Malcolm X, and now he's played Bob Marley. But so you found it pretty accurate?
Yeah, I did. And, I actually saw it in the first show in Milford. And one of my good friends is a doctor. She's my dentist, actually. Oh. And she actually went to school with Rita. And so she helped us sponsor the unveiling of the show, of the movie in Milford. And, she talked a little bit about, Rita as a kid. And, just fond memories. Yeah. And just to know that, she became very successful. Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah, and just his migration into the U.S. and things like that. But it's the official vacation music in my house. Like anytime we're on the beach, we play Bob Marley. Like, oh yeah, it just puts you in that mood, real relaxed mood. So, but listen, when we come back, we're gonna hear all about Lorraine's story right after these words.
Guys, if you enjoyed anything on the show today, found anything of value, we would appreciate it if you leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to podcasts. It helps us grow, helps us promote other businesses, and help us launch your brand.
So you are the executive director at the Cardinal Shehan Center and the McGivney Community Center. So tell us how you got there. Take us back.
All right, I'm going to take you all the way back. So I was born in Jamaica. And so I left Jamaica when I was 14 years old. And really, I started high school then. Not a good time to start high school as a 14-year-old immigrant because you look differently, you sound differently, you just don't fit in at all. And then, of course, my patois language as well, right? So anyway, had some mentors along the way.
Was there a big culture shock for you arriving here?
A huge culture shock. And I came here in the summertime, which was pretty good because, at least I had several months before I got acclimated to the snow.
And when you came here to
New England,
to Connecticut?
Directly from Jamaica to New England, yes.
Wow, okay.
A huge culture shock. And then, of course, I went to school in New Haven, Lee High School. And, it was my sophomore year that I really began to fit in. And so sports was really the common denominator for me. So, of course, I played volleyball, which was something I loved to do. And then I thought I'd try out for basketball. Hadn't seen a basketball game in my life, but in Jamaica, I played a sport called netball. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it. So netball, you are a goal shooter, or you could dribble the ball once. One bounce, and the rest is chest passing. So I tried out for my high school basketball because I used to be the goal shooter in Jamaica, and I was pretty good. So I came here, and they're calling 3 seconds. I said to somebody, "What is that?" Then I heard travel. I was like, "What?" So I was like, I felt like a reject, really, seriously. And needless to say, I didn't make the basketball team. And my gym teacher says to me, "You know what? There's track and field. Why don't you try out for that?" I'm like, "Okay," because in Jamaica I used to do the hurdles, and it was pretty good at that. But I thought that basketball was so comparable to netball, totally different sport. And to this day, I still remember feeling rejected, seriously, and did very well in track and field. So in track, I was, mile relay, the 440 at the time. And I was the anchor leg for the mile relay. And, I did pretty well. And I think at my high school, which really doesn't exist any longer, because Yale School of Nursing took over that entire building, I hold a world, I'm going to say world record, not a world record, a school record. a school record. But anyway, fast forward, one of the things that my mom always told me was that education is the gateway out of poverty. And so, growing up in Jamaica, I was poor, but I didn't know I was poor until I came to this country. And so, fast forward, I went on to get my bachelor's degree and then my MBA. And I always loved science. And I thought about, okay, I'm going to go to med school. And then I realized, well, wait a minute, girlfriend, you have 5 other sisters and brothers. Who's going to help to pay for it? So I, got some jobs, odd jobs along the way, and really sent myself to MBA school because one day I was reading the newspaper when newspaper were delivered to the home. And so I saw right on front page of the New Haven Register, an MBA is a way of the future. And I said, MBA, what's that? And I started reading up about it. And my university that I ended up attending was the University of New Haven, great MBA program. I went there, got my master's degree. And then from then on, I worked at University of New Haven for a dean, got to learn about budget versus actuals and a lot of expenses. And I said, oh my God, I love math. And so I got some opportunities along the way to work in banking and then as a consultant for a particular bank and then the water company. So I came and worked at Aquarion Water Company in Bridgeport as a senior accountant and then shareholder relations. That's like really a great career. Mm-hmm. So it talks about stocks, investing, customer service. You got to be at the New York Stock Exchange. You get to see folks on the trading floor. It's just like my eyes became wide open. And so after that, my last stint there was at I was a manager of corporate relations and assistant corporate secretary. So I then became representing the company in the community. And that's how I really got my hands wet in the nonprofit field. Right. So along the way, I was on the boards of so many different organizations, thanks to Aquarion Water Company. And then an opportunity came up at the Cardinal Shehan Center. And by now I had 2 kids and I'm like, you know what? Okay. I remember my senior VP at the time said to me, Lorraine, go make millions in New York, being in investor relations, because you can make a lot of money in that way. And I said, no, I really want to give back to my community. And a good friend of mine told me about an opportunity at the Shehan Center. And we used to give, donations to the Shehan Center on my former, position. And I said, I want to know more about it. So I went, interviewed. I remember my former supervisor, Terry O'Connor, says to me, can you lift boxes? Because, in the corporate world, people are, writing, sending emails for you. I'm like, no, I did all of that myself. You got to roll up
your sleeves on this job. Yeah.
In my nonprofit career, he says, I interviewed with him 3 times. I think because he said, wait a minute, there's no way, right? So anyway, interviewed for it, really loved the opportunity. So I became, writing grants, managing the website.
Do you think that the grant writing and the financial background ended up being, things that ended up boosting one another?
Boosting one another, and it added to my toolbox, and that's what I was looking for, right? So along the way in my career, I was, just amassing all these various skill sets. And so the grant writing was a huge piece. I really didn't know how to write a grant, but at least he invested in me. And then I went on, to various workshops and, just try to perfect my skills. And
so you worked with Terry for a while while he was still there. So he kind of
he
groomed you
me
a bit. Yeah.
He groomed me a lot. And, there were so many opportunities along the way, too, while he was grooming me, because we had so many different fundraising events. So it's now talking to potential sponsors, getting to meet people, going about, long hours, long days, building those relationships along the way and seeing him in action. And so it was really a beautiful sight to see when Terry, he's very charming, and of course, in my particular position now where, I worked with him for about 11 years and the opportunity came up to be, when he told me he was retiring, I'm like, oh no, you can't leave me. What do you mean you're retiring? And so, he said, well, do you think you want to apply for the job? And I actually thought about it. And I said, Lorraine, you have the skill set. Why not go for it? And I thought about it for a good week. And then the opportunity came up and I said, you know what? I'm going to apply for it. And I think over 70-something individuals applied for the job. And I thought, wait a minute, girlfriend, if you don't apply, you may get a new supervisor and that person may come in with their own team.
Right. You're that close to the top. And then now if you don't go for it, you're kind of leaving that open for somebody else.
Open it very much so. And I thought, you know what, let's do this.
Yeah.
So it took about a year before, I went through the entire process. Glad I did. And, and that's why I love that song, I'm Coming Out. And if we had this podcast interview like 5 years ago, because I took the opportunity in 2019, and that song really motivates me. And it still does to this day, so read the lyric, everybody.
Yes.
But it's very personal to me.
Did you spend some time in prayer?
I did. A lot of time in prayer. And, I remember even at the Shehan Center, just like praying out that office, praying for the blessings.
Right.
Because we were in a situation at the center where we definitely needed some added revenue.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah, I mean, you took over and then not too long after we had COVID and, you're navigating uncharted waters.
Uncharted waters. And I said, God, why me? And he said, why not you? And I remember like when the state of Connecticut shut down in 2020, like almost a year after I got in the position, just kind of trying to come up with my own vision. And
how do you even respond to that? I'm trying to even fathom what,
it's like she didn't have enough runway to really build momentum.
You're still kind of like getting into that leadership role, and then you're hit with one of the biggest decisions that you have to make. People are looking to you. What do we do? I remember when that happened. I remember being like super paranoid about it, and Ramon being like, "Let's not get to it." And then we got to a point and said, "Let's get ready, so that way we don't have to. Let's be ready, so we don't have to get ready." And how does that experience translate to running the?
And you know what? And that's what leaders do. You gotta think about. You've got to prepare yourself. And I remember my sister is was a hospital administrator, and she was watching what was going on in China. And in January, she said, "Are you watching the news?" I'm like, "No," because I had all these fundraising events. In early February, say, "Are you watching the news? Go buy hand sanitizers, go buy this." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" We had just had a trivia event. She says, "Please watch and go buy." And I remember like buying things for the
things were running out.
Things were, but at the time it wasn't. When she shared that it was early enough. And so I called my team. We had a staff meeting, and they were giving me all the side eyes, like, "What are you talking about?" And I said, "Listen, a day is going to come where the state of Connecticut is going to shut down." And they thought, like, "What are you talking about?" I said, "I'm doing this for my personal. I'm doing this for the Shehan Center. I'm doing this for McGivney Community Center. If you want to do that for your family and yourself, do that." To this day, some of the staff look back and laugh and say, "How did you know?" It's like preparation. I had somebody in my ear saying, "Are you watching? Are you aware?" And so even so, when we had that moment where we couldn't, I did travel on the highway because I still had to go back to the office and look at the mail, what's going on. And it was that time, just about timing, where we had converted our telephone system maybe a week before the shutdown, that now wherever we are, we could actually log in and see all the missed calls or calls.
Yeah. You're becoming like remote ready.
We were so prepared
Yeah.
at the Shehan Center. Like, we could not imagine it. And so we use that time period, what I just say, for rest, relaxation, reset, and then how do we evolve out of this, right? So we use that a lot. And, we actually did some very creative programming during the time of we shut down. And in fact, we turned around and we hired you all.
Yeah,
right?
that's what because you needed like an e-learning platform.
That's right.
You needed something for the kids to be able to access programming.
Exactly. And we surveyed our families, and there were 3 things those families said. They said, "Oh my God, my children are going to be further behind from school. How do we eat?" Because they rely on the school breakfast and lunches.
Right.
And then they said, well, what are we going to do with our kids all day? And based upon those 3 similar feedback that we received from families at the Shehan Center and the McGivney Community Center, there was opportunities where we could write grants, because now the world was like, people are at home, and various foundations were raising monies to say, wait a minute, we got to help our communities. And so one of the things we did was that we have school buses that we were paying insurance on still. And so we actually saw something on TV not TV, but in the media, where I think it was the state of Ohio, they had a school bus, and they had the bus going out to various communities as a reading bus. And then my light bulbs went on, and I said, well, wait a minute. I wonder if we could convert our school buses into mobile hotspots. So I had 2 staff members while they were home, working from home, getting paid, to actually call up, like AT&T and Verizon. And we went through the pricing, and we had some executives on Zoom. No, it wasn't Zoom. It was one of the other Teams or something. Yeah. And then we went through the pricing, and we selected one. And then we contacted the Board of Ed and the Lighthouse program that we service. And we said, okay, this is what the Shehan Center is planning on doing in McGivney. We have the logos on these flyers. Are you seeing what's going on in social media? They're like, what? I said, this is what, because now parents and the children couldn't get their homework done. And then we said that there's a part of Bridgeport.
Right, because a lot of kids didn't have internet at home. Right?
They had no internet.
Yeah.
And so we said, this is what the Shehan Center is going to do. We're going to convert our park school bus into mobile hotspot. If you have a car, you could pull up to a bus. Please let us know where we could put those, the buses. Let us know about the high need areas. And so we did that. And so, it was something that was very creative. We also did a feeding family weekends, not even weekends. It was Tuesday night, Wednesday night, Thursday night, and Friday nights. We'd gotten a grant to feed families hot dinner. And I'm not talking about pizza, no disrespect. We're talking about, pasta, chicken. A meal, roll, salad. And we contacted a couple, actually it was one restaurant, and they, a lot of restaurants had shut down. And so this restaurant said, oh, we'll come, we'll do it. And so we were feeding families, families of 4 hot meals between Shehan Center and McGivney Center. And you think back on those days, you're like, oh my God, it seemed like yesterday, but this was like in 2020. And then we did the e-learning platform, and we had, one of my staff says, well, what are we going to do to keep children motivated, exciting, besides, some of the educational e-learning platforms? So we took the chance, we opened up the gym, and they did some videos. Like if you have a basketball at home, this is how you hold the ball. This is how you could palm it. These are finger exercises. And I actually had donors who said, oh my God, Lorraine, I love what you're doing. And I have problems with my fingers. I'm utilizing some of those tips that you're providing on social media, as strengthen my fingers. But anyway, as leaders, you have to have a vision. You got to be able to think quickly. You've got to be engage your team, and be able to pivot. And that's the word we were using a lot, during that critical time.
That's great leadership on your part.
Yeah, thank you.
To navigate that, because I know a lot of folks, there's always doubters, but to come in after Terry, those were big shoes to fill. I remember him being able to fundraise thin air. Like he would auction the air.
He would.
And people would raise their hands.
That's true.
And donate.
And if you scratch your head,
oh, yep.
Right?
$10,000.
That's it, $10,000 over there. But no, seriously, huge shoe to
Yeah,
fill, both
yeah.
on McGivney and the Shehan Center.
But
So
you were the right person at the right time, and so much has happened since. Tell us a bit about some of those upgrades. I know you guys have your own podcast studio now, and some of those things that you've done since you've been there.
oh my gosh, yes. And we just really had a ribbon cutting for our recording studio.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's called the Bivens Family Music Center.
Bell
With
Biv DeVoe.
Bell Biv DeVoe, Poison, Poison, right? So anyway, no, it's great to have Mike Bivens' wife on the Shehan Center board, Tisha. And so that's been just a great partnership. So we provide free music recording studio for high school students on Saturdays. And then during the school day, after school, at the Shehan Center, we provided for our 7th and 8th graders who are interested in the music industry, who want to learn a little bit about music engineering and, recording. It's just a fun, and of course, there's still guitar and the ukulele where they learn. We've also started a program called Skill Trades Program, and we started that during the COVID. And that was really born out of my father's idea. So my dad is going to be 96 years old next month.
Wow, God bless.
And he was a tailor in Jamaica. And so I remember during COVID, he called up his electrician and says, hey, I need you to do something at the house, blah, blah, blah. And the electrician said, don't you know I'm in retirement, man? So, right? It is patois because he's Jamaican. And so he says that, listen, a day is going to come in the country where we're going to be paying a lot of money for electricians because a lot of kids are not going into that field. So I remember talking to him too, and I said, well, what about the trade school? He says, well, that's a joke, and I'm just telling you what he said. And because a lot of the students who are in the trade school, they're really not really serious about going into the trades. And so I said, okay. So I have the opportunity, because servicing those 2 nonprofits, that we could still focus on college going, because college going, you get to learn about different things, right? And then in terms of career development, we should also look at the trades.
Right.
Because when we looked at the data, we realized that a lot of our students are not going to college. And we're not saying college is the end all be all either. And we're not saying that everybody should go in the trades, but because of our mission of enriching lives through learning at the Shehan Center and the mission of the McGivney Community Center as well, that talks about, youth development and enriching children's lives, we said, well, why not we offer skilled trades? So once a week, we have individuals coming to talk about the various trades. We've actually had bus drivers, weathermen, entrepreneurs, electricians, carpenters, folks from Bridgeport fittings, and just various careers that comes in, and sports individuals that come in and talk to the children about, various trades. And they've done some other really cute little programs. So those are a couple things. We've had a legal scholars program for our students. We have computer technology and repair once a week for the older students, giving them an opportunity to learn about different programs that exist.
This is also inspiring to hear, because I feel that everyone learns different. And especially in this field, I see, even when we're showing somebody how to update the website, right? How one person learns is entirely different from another.
Absolutely.
And giving this next generation the ability to get hands-on and really have the experience is so life-changing, because that in that moment, you flip the switch, the light turns on, like, yes, I love this. This is what I want to do. And being able to do those kind of things, I think, is so eye-opening and amazing. That, I mean, just what you were saying with the music industry alone, there's such a big passion for it, and that you would have maybe never even thought that could be something you could go into as a serious career, and looking at the opportunities that are there and the careers that are around it, because you might not be the musician, but you might be the audio engineer who's setting up the live show, or or what have you.
That's right. Or marketing director, right? Promoting. And even if you're an entrepreneur, you may need to go back to school, right? To whether it's a community college or 4-year college, to learn about business,
Right.
to learn about finance, to learn about human resources. And so, we really want to open up the children's eyes for opportunities that they may not even realize that exist. And so it really warms my heart to know, as an immigrant Jamaican, who came to this country with never owned a ball in Jamaica until I was 14 years old in this country. And yet, never knew that I was poor because we had the earth. I had trees I could climb.
Fresh fruit.
Fresh
food.
fruits, right? I had milk box. The milk boxes were my balls because we used to break down the side of the milk boxes and put a stone in it and trees and, loose leaf papers. And that was our ball. My brother played soccer in Jamaica, and yet he never owned a ball. His ball was the paper and with a lot of rubber bands. And that's what I saw him putting on his shoulder, on his head, on his feet, and when he came to America here, he did very well in soccer. So anyway, but it's like, we got to be creative,
resourceful.
Right? Very resourceful as well. So yeah.
Absolutely. That's definitely in your DNA, and it's showing in your fortitude as a leader as well.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about the age groups that you service, and then maybe what kind of volunteers and donors are you seeking out to help with the programming? Oh,
sure. So our age groups are like kindergarten through 12th grade. So whether you're 7, 6, all the way up to 18 years old, at both centers. The summertime, however, we do accept students who are 4.5-year-olds, who are potty trained, and so that's really important. That's in the summertime. And in terms of our donors, anyone. You don't have to have a lot of money to be able to support nonprofits or to be able to support the Cardinal Shehan Center or the McGivney Community Center. We had a student there about a couple weeks ago. In lieu of his birthday gifts, he actually came with some dollars for the Shehan Center. And another child came with basketballs and soccer balls and, dodgeballs. And those things are so important to us because we don't have to fundraise for those things, right? And so, and of course, at the same time, we do need those donors who have the resources that will be able to create transformative change. Because at the end of the day, it's about developing those students who will be the next generation of leaders, right? That will be able to then, add to the community, add to their personal growth, add to support their families, and then becomes really like a 360, it's cyclical, right? So this way, I always say from $1 to whatever you can contribute. And of course, we always need those donors who have the capacity to.
Yeah, and volunteers.
To come in and speak, like, for example, in our skilled trades, and volunteers who can actually serve on our board of directors because, we are always looking for individuals with various skill set. So we may need attorneys on the board. We may need somebody who's in marketing. And thank you, Ramon, for being on the board at the McGivney Community Center because
my pleasure.
Yes, absolutely. Your vision and your skill set and your, just adds so much value to us at the center. And of course, individuals who could be able to just speak on behalf of the organizations. We do need individuals who could come in and read to the students as well. Additionally, you did come in when it was National Authors Day because you also not only are you an entrepreneur that talked to the students about your humble beginnings, but then, in your capacity as an author. So, we need people in general to come in and really help to mentor the students.
Excellent. Any exciting upcoming events? Because you're managing both centers. So tell us some of the upcoming events and how we may be able to support those. Yeah,
so the McGivney Community Center, in the spring, we normally have a rock out from McGivney. We are postponing that till the fall because we're going to rock out even further with McGivney Community Center. And that's normally a concert. We just feel that, in the fall, the concert was going to be amazing because the board has great ideas with regards to the rock out event. And so we have the Vazzi's Golf Classic that's coming up at Mill River Country Club. And that's that's in July the 20th, I believe. And then we have for the Shehan Center on Monday, we had our Lisa Daddario Shehan Golf Classic that raised money for our summer camp program. But we have later on in the fall for the Shehan Center a women's golf classic. So if there are any women golfers out there, please, please, reach out to me at 203-336-4468 or shehancenter.org.
Excellent. And thank you for, I'll never forget when you introduced me to Shamar.
Oh, yes.
I think it was last year's tournament at Racebrook.
Yes.
And you said, "Hey, I want you to meet Shamar. He plays for Albertus Magnus." And I looked up at him like literally like, football? And you were like, "No, he plays golf."
He plays golf, and he is amazing.
He's very good. He's an excellent golfer. And now I think he's at Payne College.
He's at Payne College.
HBCU. He's doing well.
Yes. I mean, and thank you for actually giving him the opportunity.
Absolutely.
With an internship.
Absolutely.
So this is what it's all about.
Absolutely.
Helping.
Absolutely. He was wonderful. And, I've exposed him to my network, and he's, of course, he's been my secret weapon at a few tournaments. Guarantee the win.
Home a couple trophies.
Yeah, I brought home a couple trophies, but it's also for him to meet people.
But that's number one.
I have a little motive there. Yeah, there's a little motive there, but we love Shamar, and it's good to see him doing well, and all his aunties at the Jamaican American Coalition.
Yes, the Jamaican American Connection. And it's so important. One of these days you will hear his story.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But to know that there was someone who saw him in Jamaica and sponsored him and brought him to America, and now he's gonna be the one of the next Tiger Woods.
Oh yeah,
I believe.
Oh yeah, he's got such a beautiful swing, such a beautiful natural talent, and such a nice young man, humble young man.
Very, very humble. Very humble.
Absolutely. So, well, Lorraine, thank you for being on our show. It's just always nice to see you, and again, everyone that wants to support in any way, maybe just give the website one more time.
Sure. So at McGivney, it's McGivney.org, McGivney.org. That phone number is 203-333-2789. And the Shehan Center is ShehanCenter.org, 1 E in Shehan. And then that number is 203-336-4468. And thank you so very much for having me. Ramon, thank you so much. I appreciate all that you do to support, actually, not one center, 2 centers. So shout out to you. Thank you.
You got it. Thank you for being here. All right, everybody. Thank you for listening to this episode of Mission Control. Until next time, this is your host, Ramon Peralta with Peralta Design, and we launch brands.